Good evening, everybody. Moadim Simcha Chagim Usmanim Lesason. We are in the middle of Chag Pesach, important Yontif. In Pesach, Am Yisrael was born. We went through the procedure of Yetziat Mitzrayim, and we say thank you to God that took us out of Egypt. But sometimes we ask ourselves, what's the idea? Michael Toivus, why did God put us into Egypt? Don't put us into Egypt and don't take us out. Somebody like hits you and then says, okay, I give you now something. Don't hit me, don't give me anything. So what do we really say thank you for? Do we really say thank you only on Yetziat Mitzrayim, or as the Gemara says, Tzarich levarech al hara keshem shemevarech al hatova. You have to bless and say thank you to God on the bad the same way you say on the good. And sometimes you don't understand what it's all about. But imagine to yourself, somebody wants to be a fighter in a special unit in the army and a commando unit. Of course, his training is not going to be the same as the training of somebody who is going to be a jobnik, going to stay in an office. And we all understand that the guy that wants to be a part of the commando unit has to have special training. And only then, when he goes through those special training, he can be a soldier of the commando soldier. We are the commando of God. And if we hadn't had the experience of Egypt going through it, we couldn't be Am Yisrael. And as we saw also that only 20% succeeded going out of Egypt, which already teaches us that it wasn't an easy thing to do. And from this procedure, Am Yisrael was born. So when we say thank you and remind ourselves Yetziat Mitzrayim, yes, we also say thank you on God taking us into Egypt. And not only taking us out, because if we wouldn't go into Egypt and went through the procedure and all the slavery and everything, we couldn't become Am Yisrael. The same way as a soldier in a special unit cannot be a soldier, a commando soldier, if he doesn't go through special training. And now we started a new way. And this is also something important that we have to understand and realize. In life, there are procedures and there are stages. And something interesting happens when we get into the sea. And suddenly we cry to God, shout to God, and God tells us, stop, I don't want to hear you. Go into the sea. What happened? Till now, Am Yisrael were always crying to God and shouting to God and praying to God, and God helped them. What has changed now? The thing is, it's like a baby. When a baby, at first, he cannot move. So, father and mother carry him. Then, the baby starts to crawl. And then, daddy and mommy help him to walk. And then comes the stage where daddy and mommy leave the baby to walk by himself. And that's exactly what's happening here. There is what we call itauta del eila v'itauta del tata. There is something that comes from up there, from heaven, from God, and there are the things that come from down here, from us. And the whole creation is for us to start do things by ourselves, not always rely on God that He is going to do everything. So, okay, the beginning was very hard, so God did everything. We cried to God, we prayed to God, and God saved us. But now God says, okay, that's it. Now I want you to do a move. You have to go into the ocean, you have to go into the sea, and then I'll divide the sea. But if you don't do anything, no, it's not going to go on anymore. Now it's the time that you have to walk by yourself. That's another stage, and this is the stage that we are. And after going through this stage, we had this beautiful, unbelievable miracle. Am Yisrael going into the ocean, and the Egyptian going in and drowning, which is also an unbelievable thing. And they say that the slave girl saw on the ocean, on Kriyat Yamsuf, on what our prophets couldn't see. In other words, what does it mean? Did this slave girl become a prophet? No, she didn't. She stayed as a slave girl, and nothing has changed. So what happened to all this level that she has been, like seeing things that even the prophet couldn't see? It's like the same old story with Rabbi Akiva, as we all know. Rabbi Akiva goes out in the field and he sees this stone with a hole in it, and he realizes that the drops that fall on this stone did this hole, but it took a lot of years till this hole was in the stone. And if you will sit there for a whole day, you still would not see that the drops of the water do any change in the stone, only after years. But imagine to yourself that all this amount of water, the whole thing, you will put it on the rock in one go. In other words, you'll take a big vessel with a lot of water and spill it on the rock. Would the water do anything to the rock? Nothing. And this is the same thing with Kriyat Yam Suf, with Shirat Hayam. Yes, they saw things that even the prophet couldn't see. But this is only a way to start on and walking to achieve the achievement of seeing God. But this you can do only step by step, slowly, slowly. The same way with the water and Rabbi Akiva. The drops, they fall and you don't see that they do any change, but slowly but surely they do the change. But if you take all the amount of water, even double, it wouldn't do any change. It will have a one move, a one go for a few minutes, and that's it. And that's exactly what we have to understand. We are going out of Egypt, and then in 2 days we'll have this big miracle of the dividing of the sea, and we will sing Shirat Hayam. And we got to a very, very high point in our life. But now we have to say, okay, after we got this, now we have to understand what we are going to miss if we don't do the job by ourselves. And it started when Nachshon ben Aminadab jumped into the water. We have to do the first step. Then God will provide. So we now, after we will have this big light of Shirat Hayam, we will have to understand that in order to walk in the ocean, on earth, and the water has a wall from the right side and the hand side, as we said, water is Torah. Only when we put ourselves into the Torah, then we could go in this ocean, in this world, in the nature. Now, this is exactly the idea. The Egyptian, they drowned in the sea. And drowned is litvoa in Hebrew. Litvoa is from the word teva, nature. In other words, the Egyptian drowned in nature. But we that believe in God, those few, the 20% that got out of Egypt, we had the water, the Torah, as a wall to protect us from the nature and from understanding that God is the one who rules everything and does everything. And that was the whole idea of the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. All the 10 plagues, they were there in order to show us and teach us that God created the world, and God is the one and the only one, and is nothing else. And it said in Shir Hashirim, Mayim rabim lo yochlu lechabot et ahava. A lot of water cannot turn off the fire of love. But this is if we build the love in a proper way. And we have to work on it. And in love, it's not enough talking. We need to do things. It's not that I love God, I love my wife, I love my husband. You have to do things for it in order to keep it going on. And this is what's the meaning of Bnei Yisrael alchu bayabasha betoch hayam. They go, Am Yisrael go on a solid ground, on earth, inside the ocean, with the water as a wall from right and left. In order to go in the ocean and going on earth and being surrounded by the water from both sides, I have to tell you a story I told you before. God, if we do the first step, if we jump into the water, God is going to divide the water and we will go pass through it. And it happened to us when we went a few years ago to Hong Kong for business. And we were staying, you have Hong Kong, which is the island, and you have Kowloon, which is a part of the land. And we were staying in Kowloon, and we went to have a nice day in Hong Kong. And when the time for davening came for Mincha and Mariv, we wanted to go back, but this was the rush hour. Unbelievable. We couldn't believe. We were willing to pay the taxi driver double the money, 3 times the money. Nobody wanted to take us. Because in order to go in the rush hour from Hong Kong to Kowloon, which normally will take you 15 minutes or 10 minutes, it will take you 2 hours or something. Nobody wanted to take us. He didn't know what to do. Suddenly, we see in front of us a chassid. From nowhere. In the middle of Hong Kong. So we come to him and says, can you help us? He says, what's the problem? He says, we want to go to Kowloon. We don't know what to do. Nobody wants to take us. How do we get there? We want to get there to Mincha. We want to also to eat there. We eat there in Bet Chabad. He says, what's the problem? 2 minutes up the road, you have an underground station of the train. You take the red line, and 2 stations, you are on the other side. A few minutes. We couldn't believe it. What? He explained to us exactly what to do and where to go and what to buy the tickets. And the explanation was really unbelievable. And when we went down, we realized why. Millions of people going from all over. It's like this station downstairs, it looks like a whole town. But his explanation told us, and we got to the red line, we bought the tickets, and we went, believe me or not, 5 minutes. We've been on the other side. How do we say? We went into solid ground and the water was surrounding us. We went in the tunnel with the train, with the water around us. And we believe in God, and God helped us to find our way. And in 5 minutes, we were on the other side, getting out on the station. And you know what the station was? On the right side, 2 minutes, the hotel we stayed. On the left side, 2 minutes, the shiur where we davened. This is how God showed us. If you go in my way, if you make the water, the Torah, as the wall that protects you, I will show you the way, even with all the problems of nature, with all the things that are going around. And this is Shirat Hayam. This is the meaning of getting out of slavery to freedom, and the meaning of the spiritual side of it. Because you can be physically not in jail, but in your mind you're in jail. So you're still in a very bad position. The idea is that you will work on yourself to be free in your mind, free with your spirit. And this is the Yetziat Mitzrayim. This is Sfirat HaOmer. This is why we count the Omer. The Omer is doing it, as we said. You cannot do it in one go. We have this big light of Pesach, but now we have to start working on it. Step by step, we started with the counting of the Omer. We get to the day of Shirat Hayam. We get to the day of dividing the sea, and we see another big miracle, unbelievable, that maybe takes everything together to show us, here is God. They say a slave girl saw things that nobody could see. Why? Because God wanted us to see, this is your destination. This is what you are going to gain. But now, after this, you have to start working and doing it step by step, getting out of Egypt. And if we do it in the right way, we will find that God is helping us on the way to do everything. And then we'll also understand what is written in Shir HaShirim, that we're going also to say on Shabbos, Mayim rabim lo yuchlu lechabot et ha'ava. Even a lot of water cannot turn off the love that we have to God. Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope that we will go through this procedure wisely and find our way on a solid earth, in the middle of all the things that surround us, all the storms of the ocean and all the bad things. We will go through it with the Torah on our sides, from the right side and from the left side. Have a nice, quiet evening, and Moadim L'Simcha, Chagim Uzmanim L'Sason. All the best.